Hello, everyone. Day two, not in the Big Brother house, in the Betfair trading community, trading football on the World Cup house. Not very catchy title there. But yeah, second day of the World Cup, isn't it? So, welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome if you're watching live. I know a few of you are, I can see. Obviously, if you're not, welcome later on. Big day today. Obviously, massive day. Got some big matches. Really looking forward to England, Iran, obviously, with my English allegiance. But also Wales. Wales being their first World Cup since the 1950s. I mean, that's absolutely massive, right? They're going to be so pumped up for it today. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then obviously we've got Senegal against the Netherlands. So what I'm going to do today with you guys, I'm going to give you a little preview of the games, kind of give some of my predictions, what I think might happen, what I think might be worth trading, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, yesterday's game, what was that all about? This is the problem when you let a country like Qatar host a World Cup. It's too small, right? So what ends up happening is you've let in a team that they wouldn't qualify, would they? They would not qualify for the World Cup. It was men against boys, and I don't even know what to make of Ecuador. Are Ecuador any good? I really don't know, because it just felt like Qatar. I mean, my dad texted me during the game and said he thinks a conference side would beat them, and I can't say I disagree particularly there. I think they give him a good game, that's for sure. So I think it was actually quite a disappointing matchup, and this is, like I say, this is the issue, isn't it? When you let a country like Qatar into a World Cup for free without having to qualify, you're going to end up with a team like this. I was thinking this morning, if you're going to give the World Cup to a dodgy country, why not give it to like Iran or Saudi Arabia? At least they get into the World Cup. If you have to give it to one of those nations that we shouldn't really be giving it to, why not give it to one who actually gets in the World Cup? You'd have better success there. Qatar didn't do well. I went unders on the corners, never in doubt. Yeah, and we kind of knew that there weren't going to be many goals in this one. Ecuador, I think, went a little bit easy on Qatar after they got up in the game. I don't really feel like they had to get out of second gear at all in that match. So again, I don't really know how good Ecuador are. I do think it's a fascinating group now, because I think Qatar matches I'm not going to bother watching, but the other games are going to be good, because Ecuador, Senegal, Ecuador, Netherlands could be good games. And then obviously you've got Netherlands, Senegal. So you've got three teams here that I think easily could get through to the next round. So I think we're going to have a really good matchups there. And one of those matchups is today. Someone asked me, actually, I should remember to point this out before I go on any further. Behind me, you can probably see that my TV's gone. Someone asked me, like, what's happened to your TV, Martin? Well, twice now in 2 years, my main TVs have been broken by my children. What can you do? So I've basically had to move that one downstairs as the backup one that I use in the kitchen to watch stuff. So yeah, basically that's what's happened now. I'll probably get a new one at some point. I'm not in a mega rush to do that, because you're like this, guys, right? Because people just think, oh, well, you trade for a living, you're very lucky. Maybe the luck of being able to be a professional trader gets counterbalanced in life. And I'll give you a good example of this, right? So on Saturday night, I was driving, and suddenly the lights just went out in my car, right? So the dashboard, the entertainment, everything gone. So obviously I broke down. I stopped at Asda. Obviously we were going out, so we parked up at Asda. We were going on one of these sort of Christmas light walks. I didn't really want to go on in the first place, so I was kind of annoyed. And then my car went, and it was like, oh god. And I don't have any breakdown cover. So anyway, the engine went. It wouldn't start back up once the lights had gone. It kept going while the lights went off, luckily. But of course, once I stopped the car, they didn't want me to restart the car. Realized it's probably a fuse issue. Pitch black, obviously, not really much I could do about it. I'm not a very technical, mechanical kind of guy. I like this because I rang up one company, and both local companies in Wigan. First one, this is to tow it 3 miles, wanted 300 quid, right? So I was like, all right, I'm going to ring somewhere else because I need to kind of check this up. Second guy I rang, he wanted 60 quid. I mean, how do you get from 300 to 60? That shouldn't be legal. That kind of 500, 5 times price difference, 500%. I mean, it's crazy. But anyway, that's not even a bad thing, right? Because everyone breaks down. That happens to everyone. I got towed back. So my car obviously can't start, right? I can't do anything with it. It's just sitting in my driveway next to my house. The next morning, someone hit my car, right? So now I've got a car that's been smashed. Not badly enough that I could just go, oh, that's all right, I'll get back on insurance, because that would actually do me a favor. Then we wouldn't have to get the repairs done. So I've still got to get those repairs done, and my car got hit all in the space of 24 hours. Just 2 totally different incidents. So I thought that would interest you guys. So there's no way I'm buying a new TV till I find out how much this is going to be. And from the research I'm doing, this looks like it's going to be very expensive. Good to see you today, Malcolm. Welcome along to the show. I know I rambled on a little bit at the start. I try and do that to make sure we get a few people who are listening. So I don't want people to miss the trading advice. But let's get into the games, because we've got 3 big games today. England playing Iran. Now, I think Iran are being a little bit underestimated, because this is a team that they always qualify, right? And it's not easy to qualify for a World Cup, well, especially when you're a country that's not a footballing nation like Iran. And we know that. So actually, it's quite an achievement for a country like that to qualify for the World Cup. They've obviously got a bit about them. I mean, the last World Cup, I think they drew against Portugal. I think they won against Morocco. They got 4 points in the group against decent teams. So I think Spain were in their group as well. And that was the only one they lost. And I think they only lost that 1-0. So interestingly, they've shown that they can be solid, not easy to break down. They're not taking hammerings. I look back through some of their results over the last year, and they've had some good results. So they're obviously a well-organised team. I think Carlos Queiroz is the manager, isn't he? I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it is. And they're going to be a well-organised team. They're going to be ready for today. And it's amazing, right, that basically I think people are just assuming England are going to roll Iran over, and I don't feel that way at all. It could happen. If Gareth Southgate really lets the handbrake off, it could open up and become an interesting game. But it's not exactly what he's ever done in the past, so I'm not sure why I'd ever expect that to happen here. Now, looking at England, well, England tend to get a lot of kind of 1-0s, 2-0s. Maybe if they concede, it will be 2-1 kind of results. They don't tend to get a ton of massive wins, do they? So, I actually think the opportunity in this game will be in the correct score market. And I've had a little look at the odds here. Now, 1-0 and 2-0 are, well, I say short, but of course nothing's that short in the correct score, is it? They're 5.5 and 6. Now, I don't actually think they're particularly bad prices, but I'm not going to advise it just because they are obviously fairly short for correct score prices. What I would say is I would probably look at going 2-0 as the one that I would go, right, I've got interest in that, because I feel like that could come in. I feel like if England score, I mean, think about it. If England score at any point, 2-0 odds, especially if it's kind of midway through the first half or maybe start of the second half, the 2-0 odds are going to come in, because I don't think the market's particularly expecting tons of goals. So the other thing I do as well here, if let's say Iran score and that just totally wipes that trade out, I definitely look to get on the 2-1. Again, I think England do tend to win these games at the moment under Southgate. They do tend to do it 1-0, 2-0, maybe 2-1 if the other team does score. But I think Iran will be well organised. I don't think it's going to be a thrashing. It rarely is. I mean, again, it could be, but anything can happen in trading. We know that. So it's no good just assuming that it's going to be an absolute thrashing just because you think, oh, well, it's England, it's Iran, Look at the footballing legacy of those nations. That, if you look at World Cup history, that's not really how it works. And if you look at the last few World Cups, there's actually been quite a lot of shocks and surprises in terms of who's got out of the groups and things. I think the last World Cup, did Brazil not even get out of the groups, and Germany? There's a lot of teams that have struggled in these tournaments who are fancied to do things. I think this will be a tough game. And we know Iran aren't going to come out and go for it, are they? I mean, I'd be amazed if they came out and really gave it a good go. I think they're going to look to be steady and think that, a draw would be an absolutely brilliant result for them. And I think that, again, look at the Ecuador game where you've got a match where it's men against boys, and it wasn't a goal fest. Ecuador scored a couple, and they basically gave up scoring after that because they thought, well, this game's under control. Qatar were basically zero threat at all. I mean, like I say, it wasn't even really a football match after a while, even though the scoreline, you'd think, it wasn't actually that bad. But it really was. Aaron's saying England going to win today. Well, I don't doubt that particularly. And I'm actually thought England might be short of price than they are. I think they're around 1.36. I'll just have a quick check here what they currently are. And again, 1.36. I think that's not an awful price, but it's not a price I'll be interested in at the same time. So it's probably about the right price. But yeah, I think correct score, I'd be looking at 2-0 as the one I'd get in on. And, like I say, I think at this point it's going to go below 6.0 on 2-0. Like I said, I think England will score. And I don't necessarily think England are going to score loads of goals, not as many as Andre anyway. 3-0 would be a good result, wouldn't it? But again, even a 3-0 result, if you've backed 2-0, I'd be surprised if at some point your 2-0 odds didn't come in on a 3-0 result. So that's an interesting one. So let's go on and look at the next match. England keep a clean sheet against Iran. Yeah, I mean, I expect that. And I think that's the only thing that kind of is keeping me away from going, well, 2-1 looks a good price at like 11 or whatever it is. But if Iran score, and it does happen, we do see teams go 1-0 up against the run of play. I would want to. I'd probably do in that situation, I'd probably back 1-1 and 2-1 and just know that if it gets to 1-1, I should be able to green up on both options and probably keep one as a free bet on the 2-1 and see how it goes later on. England game's on at 9 p.m. in Australia. When's your first game, Malcolm, by the way, Australia? I haven't looked. I'm not looking more than a day ahead at the moment just because I'm doing these previews. And I want to make sure I'm doing some research on those. Right, so let's get to the next match. USA playing Wales. I mean, I'm really excited about this game. 7 p.m. So a lot of you guys are going to be finished work by then. You'll actually be able to watch this one if you're at work. By the way, if you're at work today, shame on you, right? If you're English, because when I used to work, I mean, unless you really, really can't get out of it, fair enough. But when I used to work, I used to always take off like the England games in the World Cup, the 2 weeks of Wimbledon each year, things like that. So, when people complain about being at work at these times, I think, hang on. Most people, in fact, everyone I know can take days off in their job if they're employed. So, you could have booked this eventuality. Fair play if you absolutely couldn't. But, you can't complain, really. Most people can't complain about working at 1 p.m. It's not a great kickoff time. I don't know why they didn't have the England game at 7 p.m. I imagine that's the one that would draw the most interest, but who knows? That said, I suppose they maybe think it will be the least of the contests, which is probably right, that you've got one with a dominant team. I think Wales are going to be so up for this, as this is their first tournament in the World Cup since 1950s. And I'm so excited to see them there. And I really hope they do well. But with that being said, I think that USA are being a little bit underrated by the markets, or at least media perception. Because all I've really heard is that, England and Wales should qualify and all this stuff. Now, on Betfair, USA are favourites for this game. They're trading about 2.5, Wales about 3.5. I actually think that the USA are a slightly stronger favourite than that for me. it's hard with Wales because the difficulty is they're very Jekyll and Hyde. Like, they can look very ordinary against rubbish nations, but then look really good against really good nations. So it's like, and USA is kind of in the middle of that. So what Jekyll and Hyde team are we going to see today from Wales? I'm not sure. What I do know is that USA has a great young team. Now, this might not be the year for them. I mean, I saw someone say they're going to come bottom of the group, which again surprises me, because I would think they'd be favourites against Iran as well. And if they do get a result against Wales or even a draw, they've got a decent chance of getting through, because you'd think they probably would beat Iran. But again, I really like these kinds of matches between the kind of second and third favourite teams in the group, because this is probably going to be, odds-wise, the closest match in the group, isn't it? The match between USA and Wales. Maybe Wales-Iran will be close as well, the kind of third and fourth. But this is kind of the game that most people would expect to determine which team will finish second in the group. Now, I think this is going to be, like I say, a really good game. I think the USA is up for this. I watch a lot of USA sports coverage because I'm really into NFL. So I see a lot of the coverage, and they've actually covered the USA team quite a lot. They do seem to get into football when it's the country playing, much more than, like, I never hear them talking about the MLS, but I always hear them talking about the USA recently in the World Cup. So I think even Americans are getting into this. I think the sport's grown over there. I think on paper, USA should win this. But with that said, Wales are a very Jekyll and Hyde team. I would possibly take the 1.7 on draw no bet on USA. But the first thing I want to definitely do is see some action. Okay. I want to see the match. And I think in the first 5-10 minutes, we'll get a really good indication of which team's stronger, whether any team's stronger, or whether Wales might spring a bit of a surprise here. I say surprise. Everyone in the media here seems to think Wales are going to finish second in the group, which I'm kind of surprised by, because I thought that when I logged into Betfair, Wales would be the same odds as USA. And I'm kind of disappointed they're not, because I definitely would have taken USA at evens, draw no bet. I want to take the draw out of it. I just feel like these kinds of matches, the draw is always a big threat. So if I was going for an outright, I wouldn't want to, have the draw against me, so to speak. But I wouldn't want to lay Wales at 3.5. It's too high. Wednesday, it is a 3 a.m. Don't think I can watch it. Fair enough, Malcolm. I wouldn't expect you to watch that. USA, Wales, it's going to be a tough draw, a tough one today. We can't underrate USA. Maybe it'll be a draw. Well, that's what I'm thinking as well, possibly a draw. I can't really ever find myself in a position where I want to back a draw in football. It just feels so wrong. And I think, especially as I'm watching, I think if I wasn't watching it, I might do. But because I'm watching it, I definitely don't want to be, hoping for a draw and a Dow 0-0 or a 1-1. But yeah, I think we'll see what happens here the first few minutes. And I think in this first round in general, you're going to hear me repeat this a lot. The first few minutes of the matches are crucial to going, okay, how are these teams performing? Because it became very apparent very quickly yesterday, didn't it, that Ecuador were much, much the better team. And that they actually looked like a football team. The other team just looked like, let's be honest, a pub team. And that's actually an insult to pub teams. USA versus Wales is going to be an interesting match. Agree 100%. I know you love the NFL, but do you trade it too? Sometimes I actually trade more. Well, it's more betting on NFL, because the problem with trading on NFL, I guess it's not as big a problem on NFL as it is on college football, is that the liquidity is not great. Now, when it's the Sky game, it does tend to be better, or like one of the day games that are on during the day that people can watch live, like on Sky. It's not too bad. Late night is okay as well, but still not brilliant, because most people are asleep, and most people on to trade on Betfair are in the UK. So unless loads of people are up, there's going to be tons of liquidity on those games. And I'm more into the college football for the betting trading side of it, because I just see lines and handicaps that are totally wrong. And I think it's a bit like with football. It can be easier to spot totally wrong odds on match odds lower down the pyramid because bookmakers don't have as much access to those leagues and expertise. Whereas if you've really got an expertise on something like I have on college football, I can identify, right, okay, this price is... I mean, I did it the other day on the forum. I tipped LSU. The handicap was -3. And this was one of those actually where the handicap was spot on, but I said to back them outright anyway. I think the odds are around 1.7, something like that. And that came in quite easily. And even though they pretty much tried to give the other team lots of points, they still covered the handicap enough that it would have just been got your money back on the handicap. So the line to me was wrong. Obviously, in the result is right. But if you watch the game, you would see that LSU were a totally dominant team. And you do sometimes get these positions where a team who's done a lot better in the season, for some reason, is an underdog against a team who hadn't done well or who's just recently lost to a terrible team. So you can take advantage of those things because I don't think the odds makers in America and on college football have the same mentality as they do over here on things like football. So I don't feel like the markets a lot of the time are as good at working it out. But anyway, we're not here to talk about NFL today. I'm still in the Survivor. We do a football Survivor on the World Cup. You have to pick a team, and if you get through every round, you win, obviously, the World Cup. You can only pick each team once. We do the same thing on the NFL, and I think there's 3 of us who have got through. We started with 11, and there's 3 of us who've got through like 8 weeks now, I think, which is pretty amazing. So I'm pretty pleased. I've picked 8 winners in a row there, and hopefully going to get that, keep going and win it. Open game, as both teams will consider this the game to qualify. Well, again, see, I wouldn't want to say it's going to be open. I feel like it might be more open than, say, England-Iran, because I think both teams do want to win, or at least they feel like they can win. Whereas I feel like with a game like England-Iran, Iran are just going to shut up shop, aren't they? So, yeah, this could be open, and it would be good. It would be a great spectacle for the World Cup for that to be the case. And like I say, I just feel like if I see USA dominating the game, I'll get on that draw no bet. I feel like they've got a lot of firepower. I'm not so sure about their defense. But really, I mean, Wales, this is probably their last hurrah in terms of, obviously Bale, Ramsey. Who's that guy? I forgot his name. The guy who used to play for Stoke, the Welsh Pirlo. I think he's injured actually for this game as well, which is going to be a big loss for them. But anyway, we should get on to the third game today, which is Senegal against the Netherlands. I actually think Senegal are being disrespected here. Okay, so the odds are 1.68 on Netherlands, 6.8 on Senegal. I mean, I don't really love laying at 1.7 because it's not super short. But if I was going to make a play on this one, that probably would be the play to lay the Netherlands. Or if you just wanted a really small play because you wanted to kind of minimize the risk of losses, then maybe just back Senegal. I think 6.8 is a nice price. Now I wouldn't have them as favourites, but I'd have the odds way closer to the odds the USA Wales are. I would have, maybe Netherlands at 2.1, 2.2, and Senegal 3.8, 4.0. So again, for me, it would be a value play, and that's what I'm all about. Look, we never know in trading exactly what's going to happen, but if we can get value odds all the time, we'll make money because that's how value works, right? You're always getting the better end of the deal if you're getting a price that's higher than it should be. And I feel like 6.8, I don't know, it just feels a bit disrespectful to me, to Senegal. And I always feel like with a lot of these African teams, we think about, 1 or 2 players like, Mane and, things like Drogba. But if you actually watch them play, there's a lot of players I feel that play in a similar way. So African teams have got ready-made replacements. And of course, they're going to have someone as good as Mane. But I feel like, we don't necessarily know as much about their players. So I feel like we think, oh, well, if one gets injured, that's the end of it. I don't think that's the case. And I think, let's put it this way. I think in the long run, you'd get burned if you went against these positions all the time. Ronnie, of course, Netherlands are better than Senegal. Yeah, that's not in doubt. And again, that's the thing about value, isn't it? It's not saying you think this or you think this team's going to win. It's saying what price is high. I mean, I'll put it this way, Ronnie. Do you want to lay Senegal at 7? Answer me that. And exactly, they're a team that's good at counter-attack. Again, Mane is out. That is a big loss. But, maybe you push the odds up to 4, but 6.8, in a game like this where both teams are going to want to do well and not lose, I think it's going to be a great game. I think this is actually the best game of the day. So I'm kind of surprised, like I say, about the odds, because I think this will be the most interesting game. And again, like you'll hear me say it on basically every match this tournament, this is going to be another one, especially in the first round, where you want to watch the start, because we haven't seen these two teams in the World Cup yet. We don't fully know. It's the same with USA, Wales, England, Iran. We don't fully know. These teams aren't playing each other all the time, are they? This isn't like the Premier League where everyone plays each other twice a year. Senegal and Netherlands aren't in the same. In fact, none of these teams are in the same continent. So they don't play World Cup qualifiers against each other or anything like that. And so obviously that's the way it works in the World Cup. But that's what's interesting, because you can see that we can get more info in those first few minutes, and that's going to be crucial with trading these games. I'm looking forward to the games. Hopefully we'll see some contests today. So I feel like yesterday wasn't a contest. I know I've mentioned that a few times, but I just feel that way about that one. Malcolm's going for Netherlands. Yeah, let me know what your predictions are, guys, as well. Even if you're watching this on replay, I'm really interested to know, because obviously this will be going out before the match. And I hope you all have a good day. I hope you enjoy trading the football today. And most importantly, guys, I hope you make some money trading on Betfair.